Hello everybody, welcome back to the stream. Good to see you all. We are going to be doing some interesting and cool stuff today, but here's the thing. I said in the title, I might do something interesting and cool, so we will see if I end up doing anything interesting or cool, but we have a number of things to work on, so we'll figure that out in just a second. But before I get into it, I want to remind everyone that Alchemy is available for wishlisting. It's a dark fantasy roguelite auto battler where you can create your own builds with the Alchemy system. So if that sounds interesting, definitely check out the Steam page. You can also support the development on Patreon. Supporting at the top tier will give you a couple of nice perks, like I'll send you a Steam key when the game launches, so you won't need to buy it on Steam if you support at this tier for at least 1 month. And if you do that before the game releases, your name will be in the in-game Alchemy credits. So the plan is once the game releases, these perks will go away on the Patreon, and if the game does well enough, the whole Patreon will go away. But these are basically like in development only or pre-release perks. So you won't be able to get these after the game launches. So that's a little bit of extra incentive there, I guess, if you're interested in supporting gosh, I can't talk. If you're interested in supporting the development financially, that's an option for you. And you could also support me by purchasing one of my Udemy courses. These will teach you how to build complete games in the Godot engine. This is a huge help to me as well. This is where actually the bulk of my income is coming from on a month-to-month basis. So every purchase of a course helps, but you also get something out of it. You get the knowledge and the skills that you need to build games in the Godot engine. So check those out. Again, all that is linked below. And you could also join the Discord. That's totally free to do. You can like the video, subscribe to the channel, follow on Twitch, all that good stuff. As a reminder to anyone that may be popping into the YouTube VODs, I do stream over at Twitch at the same time as well. So if you prefer the Twitch stream viewing experience, you can go to twitch.tv/firebelly and follow there. I should probably put that link in the description. I don't think I have that link in the description right now of the YouTube, but anyway. Hello, Snupbill. Welcome back. Good to see you. Ava, I'm here for the interesting and cool content. Welcome. Heard the music in this game was pretty cool. Yeah, so we have a celebrity in the chat, everybody. Ava here is the one who is making the music for Alchemy. So tell him what you think of the music. If you hate it, be sure to really emphasize that. No, I'm kidding. But I've been passing along all of your feedback, all of your music feedback to him, which has been almost universally positive. Or maybe it has been universally positive, but everyone agrees. I think everyone is in unanimous agreement that the original track is just an absolute banger. So that's not going anywhere for sure. Hello, Nathan. I'm curious to see this interesting and cool content. Yeah, interesting and cool. Now that's why I'm here. Said might, so it's actually clickbait. We're getting scammed. I think the clickbait worked. We already got 13 people in here. Hello, Kusei. Welcome. So, I mean, it depends on, I guess it depends on what kind of person you are, what you find interesting. What I am currently in the process of doing, excuse me. What I'm currently in the process of doing is I'm writing a test here, and I should be more accurate. And say that Claude is the one that wrote these tests, but I have a requirement in the game now based on how the abilities are being saved that all of the abilities, let's see. So let me go to Boss Mayor. Okay, I don't want you, Cat. Go by. Boss Mayor. So every ability that gets created has a key, and this key is used in the ability provenance. So the way that the save file works, so there's a challenge, right? It's like, how do I save all of the abilities that end up on a card via Alchemy, right? How do I serialize those abilities? And every ability functions differently, so there's like no standard way of serializing them. But in my system, every ability that can possibly end up on that card has some kind of provenance or some kind of origin, right? And so in the case of Alchemy, the ability origins are from other cards. So we're not actually creating brand new abilities from scratch during runtime. What's happening is we're taking abilities that already exist on other cards and just like putting them on different cards. And so what I can do in the save file is I could say for an alchemized card, I could track all of the ability provenances or all of the ability origins. And then when I load up the save file, what I can do is I can go find the original ability source based on that provenance and then just take that ability and put it back onto the card, right? And so, but there still needs to be a way of somehow identifying each ability that is on a card. So let's say that I alchemize the giant fungus with the skeleton warrior, and I got the giant fungus ability on the skeleton warrior, right? I would still need to know which of the 4 fungus abilities should be placed on the skeleton warrior, and that's where the keys come in. So there's a key per composed ability that ends up on a card, and this key has to be unique for that card. It doesn't have to be globally unique because the card provenance is sort of like it's like a taxonomy, right? It's like, okay, the ability is coming from this card with this ID, so it would be like giant mushroom is the ID, right? And then the sub ID would be one of these keys. So as long as that combination of information is globally unique, it will work. So in other words, there could be 25 different abilities in the game that all have the damage tag, but if they all are part of different cards, then they're still unique, right? So I could say, go to the giant mushroom and get the damage ability, or go to the flagrum and get the damage ability, right? So those are unique in the sense that there's like a taxonomy, there's a hierarchy, right? The problem is I need to at least make sure that each ability key within a single card is unique. And that's not happening. So I set up this test because I need to make sure that there is this uniqueness. And so if I go ahead and run this test here, and this is just using GD Unit 4, which is just a way of running tests with the Godot API available to you. It's a lot more complicated than that, but you could do like scene tree tests and whatnot in here. But we're actually getting a failing test here. And if I look at the test output here, we got the test output, we've got the failing part. How do I actually look at this test output? Oh, here. Show result output. So those are all of our output stuff. We can see that we've got some key violations. Boss Mayor project ability key exists on 2 different abilities. And so this test actually did catch an error with that save system. So if I go to the Boss Mayor here, we can see that that is indeed the case because I'm creating 2 project abilities here, and they're always going to have that same key projectability. So if it ever ended up being the case that I was able to get one of the boss projected abilities onto one of my cards and save that data, quit the game, load back into the game, there's a good chance that it would load back the wrong ability because they both have the same key. So all that is a long-winded way of saying I need to have a way of differentiating these abilities. And I actually don't know if that's possible. Let's see. So one way to do it is, so there's a couple ways to approach this. I could pass in a key that I want into here and just use that or some default value. Or actually, that's going to have to work because this ability configuration, so this whole function, this whole factory here is passed in to the constructor. And then when I duplicate this ability, it basically just calls that constructor again. So what I could do is I could override the key. Let me think about this. So I could override the key here. So I could have the original key as stated in the factory or as returned by the factory. and then just apply an override whenever I duplicate it. Or I would have to add some kind of like third argument here. Some kind of third argument here to provide a key override and just put it right in there. I don't really like that option because then I'm just going to have to balloon out these argument lists and all these methods here. So I don't really want to do that, but I'm kind of hesitant to do... the key override here as well, because I think that's going to be harder to keep track of, maybe? I don't know. The music is awesome. There you go. Yeah, welcome TK. Hello, Edo Makes Games. Welcome back. Good to see you again. The Malicious Rabbit. Welcome, welcome. What do I want to do? So the problem with this like ability factory approach where I'm just passing in a function that reconstructs the ability is that I don't really have any way of reaching into the internal state here. So that's a little bit unfortunate. I'm trying to wondering if I could, hey, by the way, look at this. It's a little Godot crochet. Isn't that cool? My mother made that. So it's sitting right on top of my PC now. Anyway, that's a tangent. I don't know what I want to do here. I may just end up adding a key override here. That's probably going to be the simplest thing to do. Public void set key override. Oh, that's read only. Okay, key override, and then when we duplicate this, duped ability dot key override is equal to key override, and then in here we'll say key is equal to key override. Oh wait, that's in the constructor though. That's not gonna work. Dang it. Let's just do new key. Key override equals new key. And this is a read-only field as well. I actually don't know if I like this solution. Let me think about this some more. So we're setting the key here. That's probably okay. So we're setting the initial key in here, and then we're storing the key override. And then for the duped ability, we'll just call set key override on that. I think that will work. I don't know. So let's go to the boss mayor here. And then for this, we'll just do projected fire dot set key override. Projected ability fire. We should be able to run these tests again, and that should fix it. So we'll see. Hello, RN Genesis, welcome back. V, hello, hello. Top crochet, woo, yeah. Awesome. Hello, December, welcome. That is very cute, yes. Hello, Paskdll? Paskdll? Are you going to do a video of how the game did a few weeks after release, or not really thought about it? Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be tons of content to mine for sure after release, but we'll handle all that when that comes. I have a video in the works right now going over the performance improvements that I made for the cards. So that video will be coming out next, hopefully relatively soon. Hopefully relatively soon. Okay, so I've got the test now. The one thing that I don't really know is I don't know if this is going to work. So I updated my workflow here to run the tests. Download Godot for tests, run tests. Godot binary. So I'm gonna have to test that later because I don't really want to. That's kind of a long testing loop because what I have to do is kick off a build. It goes to the GitHub workflows and then I have to see if it errors or not. But we'll see. Anyway, so I'm glad I actually have that test in place now because that will help me prevent errors related to ability keys being duplicated. I may actually end up building out these tests some more to test like the saving and loading as well. But I set up this test framework probably like 2 months ago and I haven't really done anything with it, but I think this is the first time I've actually gotten some use out of it, so that's good. So we are starting to write some tests for the game. I think that this is going to be especially useful when I need to start having like migration of save data. So I'm imagining that as players start to play the game and as they start to generate save files, I'm probably going to need to make changes to the save file structure, either adding new information or restructuring the information. And so that's going to require like a whole migration class to handle the migrations of the save file to different versions. So that's where tests are going to become very valuable, because then I could just take a bunch of different save files, pass those in as like test cases for the migration, and then I can validate that the migration is working as expected. So yeah, that will probably come in the future. I actually already have an idea for when the save file is potentially going to break, because I want to do, well, I don't have to get too much into it, but I want to do a character that starts with very high health, but where your health does not regenerate after each combat. I think that would be a very interesting character to play as. So the character will start with like 100 health instead of 50 health or whatever, but your health won't automatically refill after every combat. So it will definitely be like a healing focused character. I think that will be kind of interesting. But the reason why I say that's going to break the save file is because the save model here, it currently just stores the health, and this is like the max health of the player, because we're assuming that every time the game gets saved you're full health, because that's the way it currently works. But if I need to track the current health separately from the max health, then that's going to need to change. This save file is going to need to change. It's going to require a migration probably, but we don't have to worry about that just yet. Anyway, okay. So we still have some stuff to do with the save system here. We need to save the Alchemy pot state and then add dev tool to validate. Oh, I already did that. Okay, so that's done. So we really have 2 more things to do with the save system. I want to figure out what to do about the Alchemy pot state. But I'll probably do that later, actually. We need to actually The bigger problem to figure out is to basically figure out when to save the game. So the problem is I don't want to do any saving of the game like during events and whatnot. So I mentioned this before, but if I load into the game here, but the save system's almost done. It's almost done, which is really cool. So if I load into the game here and then I go, let's say I click on this and then I save the run here and then I close the game and I go back. What's going to happen is I'm going to land on this node, but it's not going to be visited, right? So that's kind of weird. And then if I were to save in here, I think it's going to be the same problem. Yeah. So I need some kind of way of coordinating when saves can happen. And I also want to do things like, let's say that I am in a spot where I'm not actively in an event or whatever, but I'm changing my cards around like this, right? I want to save that. I want to save whenever your board state changes, when it's valid to do so. Because again, what I'm imagining is, let's say that your whole inventory is full up here, and you've got like the board opened up, and you start like planning your build, and you do alchemy a couple times, and then you're like, oops, I have to go do something. I gotta go pick up the kids from the dentist, or whatever. If I were to quit right here, I need to save all that work that the player just went into. So the rough approach that I'm thinking of doing is I need to have some kind of like save state manager that tracks when a save can happen and when a save can't happen. And I want that to be completely transparent. So what I want to be able to do as a developer is just like queue a save whenever I want, without necessarily meaning that the save is going to happen right then and there. I want to be able to say, I want to queue a save. So something has happened where I want a save to happen, but then there needs to be some kind of manager that will defer that saving until we're actually in a state where the save can happen. To avoid the issues where, like, you know, because one of the issues too is I could do this, right? I could do this, apply that swarm there, and then I could save the run here, close the game, go back, and not only am I going to be on an uncompleted enchant node, but I'm going to be able to go back and apply that enchantment again. So I could apply the swarm enchant to this guy now, see? So there are definitely certain situations where we cannot save. Or the same for like the reagents, right? I could take this elf in a jar, save run there, and then go and get another one by save scumming. So I'm trying to think, like, how complicated does this need to be? I think I can do this all through the run save manager if I'm not mistaken. So we have this save current run here. So currently the only way I can save a game is by running that debug command, but we need to move into actually saving during proper points in the game. So how do I want to approach this? I think let's start with the very obvious base case. What does that Kanban board look stylish? It's Obsidian with the Kanban community plugin. Cheating, yeah, we're cheating. We are cheating. So I think let's just start with the very obvious case, which is we have the state map transition, state map post travel. I was here. Get down. Come on. Dang cat. So how's this actually working when we load the game? We're going to state map init. We're changing to state map idle. State combat encounter upgrade. State non-combat encounter upgrade. So when we're in the state map idle, I'm going to rename this to, well, let's see. Let's do private void. Public void cheat save run. We'll go to the cheat helper, cheat save run. And then we're going to do a public void. Let's just do public void try save run right now. And we can introduce some logic in here. I'm just kind of like breaking this up. So what I don't want to happen is I don't want to be able to call save from outside of this run save manager and just have that immediately do a save. I want to have a level of like logic, intermediate logic that can like block the save from happening if we're not in a valid save state. But for now, we're just going to do save current run. Okay. And then what we can do is, yeah, that's fine. Save, set current run, save. So let's see, when we go to the, oh, and the other thing I want to do too is I want to say if game debug dot ignore save file enabled, we're going to return. So if I have saving disabled, we don't want to actually do this. Okay, so if we go to the run manager now, state map idle, emit signal node occupied, is boss fight queued. Okay, so I think we can just do the save right here. So state map idle, we're going to do run save manager dot try save run. And we'll see how that looks. So that's going to be the very, very basic case, right? This is just where I'm in the map idle state and it's just going to go ahead and save the run. So I actually should see a save message here. Game saved to rest. Yeah, saved run in 12 milliseconds. Okay, there we go. So we're on the idle state. I can go here. I should see another save run. That's taking less than a millisecond, so that's good. I can go here. So now if I close the game, we should be able to open that back up. And I am here. So then I go here. Now what happens if I just close out of the game? I should be placed back where I was. I should be placed back where I was. Yep, exactly. But now if I do this, we can skip this. We're going to go back into the idle state. It saved the run there. And it looks like all the data is correct, so that's good. Okay, so that's the very, very basic case, right? But we still have the case where if I'm changing my inventory around and then I were to quit the game here, that is not going to save. Would it be difficult to separate saving board management from saving event and map position states? Otherwise, a player could always save by moving cards around before events finish. So the problem with the board state is kind of directly related to the events. That's the only problem. So if I go to this booster, for instance, this is an event where I can change the board state. And so let's say I saved the board state when I took cards here and then I closed the game. I would save those cards, but I would not be saving the fact that I was in that event. And so I'd be able to come back and regather those cards, right? So I can't really separate the saving because the board state is sometimes dependent on what event you're currently in, right? So it all kind of has to be saved in one shot, I think. Now, for performance reasons, what I could do is I could say, if I'm in the idle state and I'm changing my board around, then yeah, I could just, instead of like saving all the map state as well, because I already know it's saved, for performance reasons, I could just target the board saving only. And I may actually end up doing that, but they can't be separated in terms of like, you can call them at different times and it'll just work. You know what I mean? No idea what's going on, but this has the cadence of someone explaining a magic trick. I mean, programming is kind of like a magic trick. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention this. I replaced the liquid in the pot with a new shader. What do you guys think of that? Do you guys like that? I'm gonna get my head out of the way. So the shader now is using a noise texture to generate the waves. And then I also added a little bit of extra highlight along the top rim of the flow to kind of give it a little bit more visual interest, I guess. I still want to redo the bubble particles here, but I think the wave looks much nicer. Hello, Smashwall Dev. I respect your opinion. Need advice. My Steam game has 5K wishlist in 5 months, despite a bad demo. Publisher offered marketing, 300K views per video for a 50% revenue share after I recoup 50K. I'm worried about DIY marketing, but 50% feels like a lot for a promising game. What would you do? So trying to think very carefully how to respond to this. So the first thing I could say is that if this is their initial offer, and you are interested, you should definitely make a counter offer. Like the opening salvo in a negotiation is always just like, it's almost always just the negotiation. It's never the case, or it's very rarely the case that publishers are going to say, here's our first and only offer, right? So if you think that you can work with a publisher, if you think it's going to help, but you don't like the terms, then express that. Just say, hey, I'm interested. I think that you can help the game. I think the game can do well if we enter this partnership. But here are my counter-proposed terms. I'd rather do a 30% revenue share or whatever. Or can we change the recoupable amount, right? Can we lower the recoup amount somehow, the budget for the marketing or whatever? So that's the one thing I could say. Try to get better terms by making a counter offer, especially if you don't really like the terms of the initial offer. And then, but as far as like 5K wishlist in 5 months is very good. I mean, that's more wishlist than Alchemortis has. So that's definitely good. That's a good trajectory. But you also have to weigh that against the concern of like, can you just do that yourself? Like if you were able to generate 5K wishlist in 5 months, would a little bit of more marketing effort just by your part, would you be able to grow that number substantially on your own? You may not even need a publisher, right? So I can't answer the question for you. It's up to you. I think the only piece of solid advice that I can really give is like, don't treat the first offer from the publisher as if that's like the offer and there's no chance for changing it, right? Negotiate. Do it respectfully. Like you don't need to be like super hard and like tough mafioso about it. But, you know, you can push back and you can suggest changes, and you could be a little bit creative with the negotiations too. Like you can add extra terms to it. You could say, well, for example, you could offer a term where like, well, we could do a higher revenue share to start, but after the game makes X amount of money, lower the revenue share in my favor. So let the publisher takes less and I take more. You can do stuff like that. You know what I mean? But I don't have a whole lot of experience with publishers, so just take that with a huge grain of salt. Looks incredibly polished. Yeah, the liquid looks bussin'. Thank you. Nice liquid in the pot. It looks more magical also. Yeah, I'm going to change the particles that are bubbling here too. I think. Good morning, Ninja Link. Welcome, welcome. Good to see you. So let me think about this. The other thing that I'm considering doing too is saving the alchemy state. So let's say that I do this and then I quit the game here. Oh, I can't actually quit the game from here, but I could close the game. Cards are currently being used for alchemy. So maybe I just disallow the player from saving the game while they're in an alchemy process. Although what that could do is that could actually enable save scumming as well, because you could say, oh, I don't like that alchemy result, close, and go back and try again. So maybe I will save the alchemy state. Trying to think. I have a lot to think, but anyway, the Alchemortis looks incredible, and I'm more than sure that more wishless amount is more than sure. Well, thank you, Smashwall Dev. Yeah, like I said, I would caution you, like, just take everything that I say with a grain of salt, because I don't really know what I'm doing either. So, like, I'm not an authority on like how to do marketing and how to sell a bajillion copies of your game. Like, that's something that I'm trying to figure out as well. So. Yeah, don't take random advice from random strangers on the internet as gospel truth. That is one piece of advice that I can give you, although now we're entering contradiction territory. Like, do you actually treat that as true, or do you ignore that advice? It's up to you to decide. I'm trying to think, is the map, is this saving capability just going to revolve entirely around the idle state? I think it does, because I don't think there's, like, idle state basically means that it's safe to save things here. I'm almost wondering if I should do like a signal public delegate void map idle state entered event handler. Map idle state event. Emit signal map idle state entered, and then in run save manager, let's do public override void enter tree. We're going to do add to group here, and then we're going to do this dot get run manager connect to enter map idle state entered. On map idle state entered, and then what we'll do is we'll just do this down here. So I think that works. I'm also wondering. Anything about this? How did you learn to code in an engine? Just basically by reading the docs. I mean, I already had programming experience when I started with Godot, and I already had experience reading documentation for various, you know, APIs, SDKs, so on and so forth. So it wasn't really about learning to code in an engine specifically. It was mostly just about learning what tools and APIs Godot makes available to me. I mean, that part is pretty straightforward if you have experience. The part that's not so straightforward is like figuring out which patterns work best with the engine that you're working with. Like, you know, trying different things with Godot, like when should something be a singleton or an auto load, or, you know, composition versus inheritance, and figuring out all those things, how to structure your scene trees and scenes and all that stuff. So yeah, I know that's not super helpful, but yeah, it wasn't really about learning how to code in Godot. It was mostly just learning how to just use Godot, generally speaking. So what I could do as well is I can do private void. Oh wait, do I have exit states? I don't think so. Oh yeah, we do. Okay. So state map idle, leave state map idle. So we'll emit another signal here. Our run manager is equal to this. Run manager there. This might actually be a lot simpler than I thought. On map idle state exited. So what we can do is we can do private bool is save locked. We'll say is save locked equals false. Is save locked equals true. If is save locked, and the reason I'm doing that now is because I think what I can do is I could do var board manager equals this dot get board manager dot get player board, connect to let's do board inventory component, connect to board state updated on player board state updated. Board manager dot get player inventory board inventory component dot connect to board state updated. On player board state updated. Private void on player inventory board state updated. So what I can do now is I can actually probably just, let's see, save combat board, save inventory board. Save board state. I'm curious to see how long this takes, so let's log this. So we're just going to save the board state when the board states change. And then in here we'll say Okay, so we're preventing board state saves if the save is locked, and the save is going to be locked if we're not in the map idle state. Hello, Emerson, welcome back. Good to see you. So if I do this, I should see... Oh, that didn't work at all. I guess it didn't connect properly. Let's see. Maybe the board manager is not available yet. Let's see. Board manager might be null here. No, it's not null. Do we not have the player board? Get player board is null. Okay, so that's not available until initialize is called. So I may have to just move this. I may just have to move this into the load current run here. So I have a weird problem now. If I grab this elf in a jar and then I do Alt F4. Uh-oh, can I do this with one hand? Uh-oh. Can I not quit the game? Oh, wait. Interesting. I can't actually Alt F4 while I'm dragging, but I think I do want to connect to that. So I want to disable the saving as well if we're dragging a card, I guess. So I guess there's a problem where if I start dragging a card, that fires a board state update because the card is actually removed from the board. But if something were to happen where I close the game after it's saved, after I started dragging a card, I could potentially lose that card. So I probably don't want to allow that. Card mouse events manager dot connect to card connect to drag began. Let me see. Emit signal drag began. Okay, so it's actually not, there's no arguments with that. Okay. So that makes sense. So if I go to my run save manager, then I'm going to change this. We'll change this to is save locked. Hello, Chris. How's the saving going? It's going well. I actually, I I thought about your suggestion some more, and I actually moved to rebuilding the map from the seed and just replaying all the deltas or the changes. That seems to be working a lot better. I certainly don't have to do as much work serializing things. So there are some tricky situations where that was a little bit finicky to get right, but yeah, so basically reconstructing the map from the initial seed and then replaying, resetting all the nodes that have been visited, revealing all the nodes that have been revealed, and then applying all the map node effects that were applied, so on and so forth. And it seems to be working really well. I'm sure I'm missing one or two things that I'm unaware of for the save file, but all right, let's see if that works. I have a feeling it's not going to work. Oh, it's not working. Right. So the drag ended. So the reason this isn't working, so it's working initially because when I start dragging a card, it adds a save lock, and then the board state update will trigger, and it will save the board state. The problem is that this on drag ended is being fired after the board state is reset to where it was, and so it ends up being the case that the save locks is greater than 0. So what I may need to do is connect to this in a deferred manner. We'll connect to that deferred and we'll see if that works. That's good to hear, I guess. That also means that the save stores the history of the current run, not just the current state. Right, you're right. Nothing works first try, sadly. Yeah. Okay, it's still not working. Oh. I reversed this, that's why. All right, well, this is probably going to be easier, actually, if I just do this. Private bool is dragging. Private bool is in map idle state. Is save locked, is dragging, or is in map idle state. We'll just do that. It's still not saving. Why is this so difficult? Oh, this needs to be not is in map idle state. My logic was wrong again. Classic. Experienced programmer, try not to do basic logic. Wrong, challenge, impossible. Okay, so now whenever I move a card, it's being saved. We can see that saved run down here. But when I pick up a card, it's not saving. So it's only going to save after I place the card. And that shouldn't be saving the whole map state either. That should just be saving the card state. Yeah, so I could do this, I can do that. Now, if I go here and I move something around and then I close, that shouldn't do a save. Yeah, so we're back to where we started. That's all good again. Cool. We make games not because they are easy, but because we thought they were going to be easy. Yeah. So we'll do this, we'll auto-resolve. Bring this over here. So that saves the run right there, and I go back. Okay, cool. So I think this is working pretty good, actually. So every time I move a card around, it's saving that. Oh, I got an error here. Handle is not... I keep getting this handle not initialized error, and I just don't know where that's coming from. But it doesn't seem to be causing any issues, so... So we'll do a setup like this. I'll go here. I'll start moving these things around. I'll even apply an enchant here. Oops, that already has an enchant. Enchant there. Close the game before it can save. And we're back to that previous configuration. So basically, we're not allowing a run to be saved unless we're in that map idle state, which is good. And so now if I do this, if I do set enemy strength to 100, that's a prisoner 2, that's a sweet roll 1. So I'll go here. And that's going to save now. And that's a field mouse, prisoner Stein, whatsoever. I go back in. That should all be saved now as well. Field mouse, prisoner, Stein, horse dung. Yep, there we go. So yeah, I think that's actually good. So yeah, we're only saving if we're in the map idle state. So as long as we're in the map idle state, I can move these things around and all that data is going to be saved. And then, you know, the thing that I don't have to do as well is I think probably a lot of that time is being taken up actually writing to the disk. I might not need to write to the disk every time, although I guess that would be the safest thing to do. I mean, it's only 0.6 milliseconds, so it's all right, but... There's another option, which is that I just persist the changes in memory, and then only persist to the disk like when the player quits the game or whatever. But again, if the game crashes for whatever reason, it's not going to be able to write that to the disk unless I can add some kind of like crash handler that can just dump the current save data to the disk before it crashes. Is that a thing? Can I do like a crash handler? Godot crash handler. I don't think that's probably... Yeah, never mind. I don't think there's a way to do that. So we'll just keep it the way it is for now. And because that's saving, the nice thing is because that's saving anytime I'm making a change in the idle state, if I were to quit to menu, I don't need to like trigger another save right there because it's already up to date. So I could just go back into the game here. And we're all good. Okay, awesome. So I think the last thing that I really need to handle for the save system is like what happens with the alchemy here. So if I alchemize these things and I get these outputs and I don't like those outputs, what I could theoretically do is do this and reload the game and try the alchemy again. And just keep going until I get the results that I want. So I may actually end up saving the alchemy state. Also, I didn't get my residue there. Interesting. Unless I did, let me see. Alchemize these two guys together. I should have 23 residue, but I guess that didn't work. So I'm gonna need to fix that too, because I guess it's possible to save the game or exit the game before your residue has been added. But I think I will, like, I don't want to encourage save scumming, so I think if I could just save this state as well, that might be a little bit tricky though. I could just say, like, we don't need to worry about it either. Like, if the player wants to save scum the alchemy outputs, then that's fine. But I kind of don't want to encourage that. I don't know. Any thoughts? I made a tool for game dev map creation for Unity. Very nice. The Cheeseburger Dev. Welcome, welcome. It's a grid generation tool, and I updated it earlier. So far, sales are good. I've earned $50. Nice. Very cool. I don't know much about Godot, but the error sounds like you might be trying to use a variable handle before it's created somewhere. No, it's not that. No. It's some kind of internal Godot error. Hello, Asymmetrics. Welcome back. Have you seen this guy? He makes interesting and cool things. I have to say, this pot is really cool. I really like how the new pot turned out. It just looks so freaking good. Not to toot my own horn, but I dig it. And with a little shadow animation when it bounces up and down too. Oh. Man who stands on toilet is high on pot. Wonder if you could write something into the file to prevent reversing the files. What do you mean by that, Chris? Game is even looking less dark. Might be my monitor though. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad to hear that because that's the whole point. That's why I updated a lot of the art. So basically now the visual language is all of the clickable elements are brighter. So all the clickable elements will be using like oranges and whites as well. So like all the map nodes here are much brighter. And then these inventory buttons here, the combat log button, these are much brighter as well. And then of course the alchemy pot. So basically the goal is almost everything that's clickable now is going to have that brighter color scheme. That's to serve two purposes, like I said before. The first purpose is to brighten the game up a little bit, and the second purpose is to establish a visual language for what's clickable beyond just doing the highlight animation. So you could even look at the main menu here. I brightened up all the main menu buttons as well. So I think that's good. It should be a little bit easier now to understand what's clickable and what's not. And I kept the outline animations too, just to reinforce the clickability of these things. But I think that's a good change for the game for sure. So hopefully that addresses the comments from people that I've gotten, like the game is too dark, you know. Sorry that made such a cool pot. Now you only need to bring the rest of the art up to the same standard. I know. I know. Man who throws clock watches time fly. But I guess anything that you would write would also be scummed. Oh yeah, true. Look at the player wants to save scum every alchemy interaction and let them be. The tediousness will get to them eventually. Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm trying to solve a problem that doesn't exist. I could always work on preventing save scumming of alchemy later if it turns out that that's like the optimal way to play the game. So I am going to allow players to share seeds as well. I guess what I'm kind of wary of is like, let's say you get a seed that's like particularly difficult or something. And players are sharing that seed around like, hey, this is a very difficult map. Let's see if you can beat it. I don't want it to become where the optimal strategy has to be just save scumming until you hit the exact right alchemy results. That's like a very speculative thing though. But I guess I am worried that for some parts of the game, especially if I introduce higher difficulty tiers, that the path of least resistance, or like the meta game, is going to be, oh, just keep reloading the game until you get the alchemy result you want. So I guess, I mean, like I said, I guess that's a problem that I can address later if it ends up being a problem. Actually, I just thought of some other things that probably need to be fixed too. Pot objectively looks great. Sometimes you gotta toot your own horn to tell the truth. Well, thank you there, Savior. Work's still kicking my butt, unfortunately. Sorry to hear that. Unless you add something like point leaderboard or something, make it competitive, then it's a non-issue. Oh, then it's an issue, yeah. If Godot uses a handle map for entities, that might mean the entity that's been destroyed is trying to be interacted with. You have some kind of destruct method. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm gonna have to dig into it. I don't know. I don't even know when that error is triggering. So I wish there was an undo last move button at every single game because I misclick like crazy. I get what you mean. One of the tactics I'm seeing on the web is to just save frequently automatically, and yeah, that's what I am doing. It's just the case of like when you're in the alchemy here. Like, I would need to add explicit support for saving this result. So like as soon as you click this and you get your outputs, it would need to save this data here. The problem is though that I need to restore this on output, right? So I need to restore all the alchemy options in, like if I close the game right now and I open back up, I would need to reconstruct this alchemy state to present your output cards to you, and then also add this little validator like cards are currently being used for alchemy, remove all cards to close, right? So I basically need to, if I close the game right here and I reopen it, I need to reconstruct exactly this UI state where I've got my alchemy cards available to me, and then even if I closed the game and reopened it, it would be the same exact options, like repopulated exactly right here. Which I think can be done. I'm just wondering if that's too much trouble. If it's more trouble than it's worth to resolve. I mean, we could take a look at it. Maybe it'll be easier than I think it will be. But anyway. But yeah, I am, in all other instances, I am frequently saving the game automatically. So that's going to prevent saves coming in. Everything is seeded too, so it's not like, you know, oh, you didn't get the booster cards that you wanted, so close the game and reopen it and then visit the booster again. It's going to be the same options every time. It's just, in particular with that alchemy, that can't really follow a seed because players are going to be putting in different cards anyway. So like making that deterministic is basically going to do nothing because it's going to appear non-deterministic, even in the same run. So in that case, I just need to actually explicitly save the outputs and restore those outputs so that the player can't just keep reloading the game and doing alchemy over and over again. But anyway. Now here's a question. I may have an issue here that I need to resolve as well. So if I do set enemy strength 100 here, and I go here, is this going to trigger a save? I don't think this goes into the idle state. Let's see if this triggers a save immediately. I don't think it did. Can I search for this? Okay, it only did one save. Okay, good. So basically, what I'm saying is anytime we enter the map idle state, that means that all the pending map changes have been applied, all of the combat encounters have been upgraded, everything's been done, and then we can save the game there. If in Slay the Spire, for example, you could save scum every single random interaction, like upgrade a random card in the deck, and you would roll until you get a perfect result, the game would not be as fun, especially Ascension Conquering. Right, yeah. Going with determinism, you would write out which cards were submitted and the seeds. But if you can't replay the seed, then just record the output. I manually implemented an LSFR into my code. What is LSFR? I don't know what that is. Okay, give me 3 minutes. I'll be right back and we'll continue on. We're going to try to save this alchemy state. We'll see. I'm kind of worried it's going to be a little bit buggy, but we'll burn that bridge when we get there. Anyway, BRB in just 3 minutes. All right, I'm back. Lemonade should flow red. Oh, interesting. I'd be curious to see how you could implement that manually. LFSR, linear feedback shift register. It's a pseudo-random function. Oh, very cool. Yeah, those random algorithms are kind of interesting to learn about. All right, so we're gonna need a model for this, but let's see. So set alchemy output cards. So I think what we would do here, let me think, set alchemy output cards. Honestly, I wonder if it's as simple as just calling this function. Has initiated alchemy. So this has initiated alchemy. Alchemization finished. Oh, that's only used for the tutorial, which I'm going to redo anyway. So actually what I can do is I can just do set alchemy output cards. So, okay, all right. So maybe what I can do actually, this might actually be relatively simple. Run save model. We're going to create JSON property alchemy state. Public alchemy state model. I guess we'll call it save model because that's what I'm calling everything else. Alchemy state save model.cs. And then what we can do is we can do public list card save model output cards get set. This card save model already has card ability save model. It's got the provenance persistent state. So I think this actually might be okay. JSON property alchemy state. So we've got the alchemy state. Okay. So now we actually need to save this. So in the alchemy container here, what I can do oh shoot, you know what I realized? This is not really going to be a fix. This is not really going to be a fix, actually. Because since I can only save during the map idle state, I can't save during events, but I can still do alchemy during events. So I could prevent, you know, saves coming the alchemy here. But if I were to go into an event here and then do the alchemy, then I wouldn't be able to save this data, this alchemy output data. So I could just work around this by going into an event and doing the alchemy save scumming anyway. Well, this might not be a fixable problem then, actually. Because I could just do this, and because I can't save here, I could just say, oh, I don't like that result, close, revisit that event, do it again. And that would be especially, like, I could potentially save the alchemy output cards, but the other problem here is that I could potentially dupe cards as well if I allowed saving just the alchemy outputs during an event. Because what I could do is I could go here to the booster. I could grab a card out of the booster here, use this card in alchemy, do this. Let's say I saved those alchemy output cards there and I closed the game. I could go back to that booster event and get another copy of this syringe, for example. So I actually don't think there's a way to prevent the alchemy saves coming unless I were to also save the in-progress event state. So yeah, maybe I just don't do that. Couldn't you just save the seed for the next alchemy output? It won't prevent it completely, but it would reduce it. Let me think about that. The problem is I don't think that's going to be effective because it's the seed output is going to be entirely dependent on how many cards are in there. So like, for example, I could save the seed for the next alchemy output, right? But if I put 3 cards in instead of 2, I'm going to get wildly different results, right? And so there's still an opportunity for players to, you know, say, oh, I didn't get the alchemy output I wanted, so I will just add an extra reagent in there, and now I'm going to get something completely different. You know what I mean? But that might be a way of just preventing players from doing the exact same inputs every time. Let me think about this. Alchemy. Would that work? So I passed in an RNG to get outputs here. Replace the RNG there, replace the RNG there. Get randomized output would require an RNG object as well. Get alchemy output data. Yeah, maybe that would be the thing to do. So that would reduce it quite a lot. It still wouldn't prevent the case where I could go in and add like one more card to it, but you wouldn't be able to just keep retrying the same combination every time, which I think would be enough, right? So let's see, maybe I can do that, and then I can just save the RNG. Okay. Alchemy manager, let's see. So alchemy state save model, let's just do this. We'll still make the RNG unique for every run, so we're not gonna populate the RNG with like a seeded run value. So we'll just do this in, let's see. Let's do private random number generator RNG. Equals new. We'll do RNG.randomize here. We are going to need a way to restore the load from save, and then we're going to do alchemy state save model, and we will just say RNG equals save model.rng. So I am going to want to do some interesting things here, I think. So let's do var outputs is equal to that. config.getOutputs.toArray. We're going to do this. Private void advance RNG. So we'll do this advanced RNG here, return outputs. Actually, we probably don't want to do that there. We probably only want to advance the RNG after we've actually got the output. So let me just, I'll think about that later. So the reason why I need to like advance the RNG manually is because I am calling this, where is that? Get alchemy output data. So this is being used to determine the negative abilities that will be added to and from the card. So actually what I can do is I can actually do random number generator RNG here. Here we could just pass in, since this is not relevant, we can do mathutil.rng there, mathutil.rng there. But when we call alchemy output data here, we are going to want to do something like public orange random number generator. We're going to do get, I'm just going to call this isolated RNG. I don't know if that's really a good thing, but we'll return new random number generator. And what we're going to do here is we're going to do seed is equal to rng.seed and state is equal to rng.state. So we're creating a new isolated random number generator object, which will not affect the state of the overall RNG object. And then inside of get alchemy output data here, what we're going to do is, where are we using RNG? So I'm going to need to replace all instances of this, but that's okay. Get outputs, Alchemy Manager. Where is this used? Okay, so we're going to do get isolated RNG. This should be isolated RNG there. RNG. Get randomized output. RNG there. And I may want to further isolate these, but where is transmute cards being called? Alchemy input config. Where is this being generated? Okay, so we are going to need to pass in a random number generator here. So this can just be math_util.rng. Alchemize cards. Get negative ability data. Where is this used? Okay, so that's just used for UI purposes. So this one can be math_util.rng. So basically anything that's just used for the UI can just use the math_util.rng. But anything that actually is going to affect the output, I need to control the RNG that's being passed through. So we do new Alchemy input config. This transmute cards needs to have a random number generator here. We'll replace that with RNG. Collect reagent stats. Collect stats. Where is this being called? Okay, so we'll put RNG there. This is a little bit of a pain, but that's okay. Actually, do I need to do all this? I suppose I could just store the RNG here. Okay. Just have the game get the IP of the save scummer and swat him or her. You're ridiculous. I hope you know. why is this in here? Why is this not... This can be a part of the Alchemy input config, actually. Yeah, that doesn't need to be a part of that. So we'll just do get random negative ability. Bam. Bam. And then this can use that RNG object that we're calling. Okay, do I have any other usages of math-util? Okay, I don't think so. I think that's okay. So anything that's just for UI data, because basically I'm running the Alchemy simulation to determine how many negative abilities are going to be added or how many negative abilities are going to be removed. So that can just use the global RNG object, which is this math-util, because that's not important. But when we actually go to get the output cards here, this alchemized cards, we're getting the isolated RNG. So we're using the parent RNG object here, but we're creating a brand new random number generator object with its own isolated state, but it's going to have the same seed in the state as this overall one. So that means that every time I call this alchemized cards, I'm going to get the same RNG object out every time. So that's going to hopefully prevent that save scumming there to some extent. But then this get isolated RNG here, what I need to do is after I do the card alchemization and I call reset. So in here in my Alchemy container, when I do reset state, I think what I'm going to want to do in this reset state in this Alchemy manager is I'm actually going to want to advance the RNG, which basically is just going to do a random RNG function here. And that's going to move the state forward in the overall object. So I'm only going to move the state forward when I call reset state on the Alchemy manager. So that means that after the Alchemy is done, that's when the overall Alchemy manager RNG object gets advanced. But if it never gets advanced, that means that it hasn't actually completed an Alchemy process. And so the data, the RNG that's going to be persisted to the save here is going to be the same. That's the idea anyway. What we're going to do now is we are going to have to store that Alchemy state. So if I go to my run save manager here, we want to save Alchemy. And let's just put this down here. Private void save Alchemy. Okay, Alchemy save model is equal to new Alchemy state save model. RNG is equal to this dot get save or get Alchemy manager dot get. I guess I could just call get isolated RNG because that's just going to return a new RNG object. I think that's fine. And then Alchemy state is equal to Alchemy state save model, and then we need to load the Alchemy state. So private void load Alchemy. We're going to need to do current save run save model Alchemy state, get Alchemy manager. We're going to do dot from load from save. Actually, let's change this to from save model. This is going to be non-null every time, so I'm just going to go ahead and remove these checks. And then we need to put the load Alchemy in here as well. Okay, let's just go ahead and see what works, or see if that works. So this is not going to be a perfect solution, but it's going to prevent the player from putting in the same cards every time and then getting the same result. And actually, Oh, I didn't save that. Okay, let's try this again. Alchemy manager, right. Let me make sure that this is not order dependent. So I want to make sure that the cards are in the same order every time as well. Alchemy input config, input cards. Is there any randomness being done in here? It's just this RNG here. So that's fine. So this is iterating over all the non-reagent input cards, reagent. What? Get outputs. So I'm thinking the card ordering is going to affect the result as well. So I probably want to make it a little bit like order independent. But let's just see. I may have to do that. Save alchemy pot state. Do predictable ordering of input cards so RNG is applied in the same order regardless of card position on alchemy board. I think I'm going to need to do that. I need to dig into that some more. Oops, and we have an error. And we have an error. I guess I shouldn't be... I guess I should do a null check here. But we'll just try the happy path first, so I'll just put the things in the same order. And it's still breaking. What the funk? Oh, this is potentially null as well, that's why. Okay, let's just do the first thing. I think it saved my game, actually. I'm going to have the same cards, yeah. I got to delete the save file again. But we can actually take a look at the save file and see if the alchemy state was saved. Alchemy state, RNG and seed. What's pretty cool is like with Newtonsoft, and I'm sure this is true of other things as well, but you can write your own converters for JSON objects. So what I can do is I can just store the RNG object right here. So this is just a Godot RNG object. And what I did with this converter is I basically wrote the rules about how that gets serialized and deserialized. So I can just put the random number generator object in there. And then when it goes to the serialization process, it will pull out the state and the seed. It will write those as strings because for whatever reason, it can't read long values in the converter. I don't know why, but I just parse the unsigned long from the string value when I'm reading it back and return a new instance of random number generator there. So that's super, 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 super handy. I can't emphasize that enough. So yeah, any Godot object that I would want to save in my save system to make it easy for me, I can just write a converter for it and store only the data that's necessary to reconstruct it. So that's pretty cool. But anyway, let's delete the save file. Now, unfortunately, I'm also going to have to add what happened? Stop opening that. Failed to place card as a result of board size. Oh. Yeah, that's right. Okay. Let's get rid of the giant mushroom. We'll just do a skeleton warrior, I guess. Okay, let's see if this works. What? It didn't place the skeleton warrior? Oh, because it's saved again. Son of a brisket. Okay. So let's just try the happy path first. Let's just do these in this exact configuration. And we'll see what result we get. Oh, I got an aberration out of that. Oh, well, that's going to be a great test. So this has 4, 6 critical chance and 20% blind. So remember that, plus an aberration. Okay. So we're going to close this. And we're going to see if that alchemy state is restored and we get the same exact result. So if I do this, this, and this, I should get an aberration out again. I did, and we have the same exact outcome. So I think this is going to change, though, if I change the order. So if I change the order here, and I do, let's say, this one first, and this one first, and then this one here, I'm probably not going to get the same output. Yeah, I did not get the same output. So that is order dependent, and it actually didn't give me the aberration either. So I think there's still something I can do here. Basically, instead of making the cards position, well, there's going to be some extent to which it's position dependent because some reagents apply abilities based on positioning, but that isn't RNG powered either. So I think what I need to do is I just need to go through here and just make sure that the cards are being processed in the same exact order every time, regardless of where they are on the board. Now, that is going to be a little bit tricky because I do want to put the cards back at the position that they started at. So when I go to, like, when I put these things here, I don't want to shuffle this order. Like, I want the Fist of Anger to come back out to the same spot that it was in the input, just for, like, continuity purposes. But under the hood, what I want to do is apply a very specific, like, repeatable ordering to the cards. I could even just order them alphabetically or something. And then once I've ordered them, apply all of the RNG from that point onward so that all of the state is exactly the same. So even if I change the order, I'm going to get the same result out. And then that, again, that's not going to be a perfect solution because you can always add a new card to the input and that's going to totally change the RNG. But the point is, you're not going to be able to do the same inputs and get different outputs every time. So that should greatly reduce the ability of people to save scum. You could still theoretically, you know, put 2 cards in, try to get an output. You didn't get what you wanted, so you put a 3rd card in, try it again. You didn't get what you wanted, so you put a 4th card in. But I guess the point there is that that becomes very cumbersome to do, and it actually becomes less and less likely that you're going to get the output you want the more cards you add to the input. So there's basically like a finite number of things you can try. You can't just keep reloading the game until you get the exact output that you want. If the exact output you want is not going to be in any of those possible input configurations, then you're never going to get it, at least for that seed, right? Man, I can't get enough of this cauldron. Awesome. Glad to hear that. Glad to hear that. So I think this is working pretty good. And yeah, I'll just have to update that stuff that I was talking about. So I think, and I'm also calling, like, I'm calling reset state on ready, I think. Alchemy container. Reset state. Let me just do something really quick. I want to make sure that this is happening before I call load from save. So I should see the reset, because it calls reset when the game loads just to get all the state correct. So I want to see this before I see this load from save model. Yeah, okay. So the load from save model is always overriding it, because if these happen in the reverse order, then I guess it would still be the same thing, but I just want to make sure that the save model is taking priority and being applied last. Okay. Wouldn't there be an issue if we rely on alphabetical sorting if you use cards with the same name? I guess so, yeah. I guess so. I mean, I could do additional ordering parameters, right? I could say order by name, then order by ability count, then order by, you know. Yeah, I mean, I guess that would be a problem. See, I'll figure out some kind of way of ordering it. Honestly, it may be as simple as just adding an RNG step to assign an order. Like maybe I could just order them randomly, but as long as it's using the same RNG object, the random order will be the same every time. So it's a random but predictable ordering. I think. Would that work? I don't know. I'll have to play with it, but anyway. I have a meeting to get to in a couple of minutes here, so I'm going to end the stream there. But thank you all for watching. Thank you for being here. Very much appreciate it. If you're interested in Alchemortis, and if you're interested in that new cauldron, you can definitely wishlist the game on Steam. I would very much appreciate that. That helps me out a lot. Beyond that, you could support the development financially on Patreon. You can also like the video, subscribe to the channel, follow on Twitch, join the Discord. All that stuff helps out greatly. So I appreciate it. I appreciate all the support, and I may stream later today, so keep an eye on the Discord for the live announcement. Otherwise, I hope you all have a great rest of your day. You think that could work? Yeah, I think it will. Or it might. We'll see. But I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one. Okay, bye-bye for now.